you or put you off. The examples that will be given will be from airlines, but it will trigger your creativity, I'm sure, and it will be applicable to all sectors. And I'm very proud to introduce to you the speaker of today. It's Mr. Steven Klimek. He's from a company called Simplifying, which started as a blog and is now a firm that's helping airlines and airports engage travelers and profit from that even. And so he's here to share with us his ideas about how to use mostly social media to tap into what your customers need. So please welcome Mr. Steven Klimek.
Thank you guys. Thank you. Again, as Willie said, I'm more tied to airlines, so I hope that you can at least use this as inspiration because a lot of the principles are going to be the same, no matter what industry. And I lied a little bit about the title. I kind of thought it might be more applicable to do this thing that I'm calling 2 paradigm shifts in travel as a result of social media, and then 3 ways that we can drive results or customer engagement in light of those paradigm shifts. So, again, I'm Steve Klimek. Oh, I'm a little behind already. Steve Klimek with Simplifying. We actually just work with airlines and airports on social media strategy and that sort of thing. We, again, started as a blog, now we do a lot of speaking, we do some training with airlines and that sort of thing. We're actually incorporated in Singapore. I'm in Washington, D.C., that's where I'm from, but I'm never there. So you're more likely to find me on a plane. And this number of 257,000, that's actually, I tallied up the miles I've flown so far since this year began. That's like 414,000 kilometers, so kind of insane. I don't know, I just like it, so that's me. And I brought a couple of friends today, and I'm wondering if any of you guys recognize this guy, Christoph C.
Yes.
You do? Really? Okay, so some people know Christoph C. Maybe this guy Paul, if you've seen him around town. And then I have one other guy here, Eric. I couldn't get a good photo of Eric. Does anybody know why these people are on my presentation? Can anybody take a guess? All right, well, we'll come back to it. I didn't expect you guys to, but we'll come back to it at the end, so don't let me forget. So, I promised 2 paradigm shifts, and so the first one is that the cult is in. And what I mean by that, I'm not talking about any sort of, usually when you hear the word cult, it's sort of a negative connotation. I think of Texas or things like this that are in the news a few years ago. What I mean is capturing those people that have the ability to capture other people for you. So instead of chasing 500,000 customers or clients, you chase 50 that can then go out and chase the 500,000 for you. So, to give you an example, I'm arguing the new CRM, instead of customer relationship management, is now cult relationship management. So, for example, I work with Air New Zealand a lot, and I used to know I know a guy who used to be their pricing manager, and every time that he had to advertise a new fare or a new destination, he had to have a list of 500,000 people in their CRM system to distribute that to. And that's all well and good. You can do that just with a click of a button on an email. But imagine the effort that goes into capturing those 500,000 names. So this is what I mean by cult. So what Air New Zealand did is they launched this campaign with a guy named Rico. And has any of you guys seen this guy before? Has anybody? They're actually really funny. I'll show you one of the videos, and I apologize if it's a little inappropriate, but hopefully you can have a sense of humor.
So, how'd you like New Zealand?
Oh, I think she is taking away my breath. Her river, her mountains, her animal, I can't breathe. Oh, and I love her bush. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's good you got to look around a bit.
Yeah.
So, where'd you go?
I spend most of my time beating off the track in many places.
Tasting about yourself? Awesome. Thank you.
This is alive. All we need now is a nice kiwi beach.
Excuse me?
You know, like lying around on a white sandy beach. Oh. You can feel her wind. She's blowing you.
I had mentioned that 500,000. This thing reached like 500,000 hits on YouTube in just a couple of weeks. So again, they didn't email this link to 500,000 people. They sent it to a few people. Those people distribute it because it's funny. Now, as far as the content, I'll get to some of that later, but I just want to give you an example of this cult. Can any of you, on your CV, can any of you claim to have earned or brought in $1.5 million of revenue for your tourism board or your company individually, just by yourself, your own work, in 10 seconds? 10 seconds of work, $1.5 million. Emirates Airlines was on the right end of this cult with this lady, Paris Hilton. I'm kind of ashamed that I'm putting her in my presentation, but she had flown on their Airbus 380 a couple years ago when it first was flying from New York to Dubai, and she had started tweeting that she was in one of the first class suites, which are like a private room basically. There's showers and, well, there's one shower, but there's actually like enclosed suites with a door and everything, flat bed. All she did was send 2 or 3 tweets while she was there with a photo of the logo, with a photo of the suite, and say how amazing the service was. And there were some studies that said that that generated $1.5 million worth of publicity, free PR for Emirates. So again, I just want to give some examples of what I mean by this cult in attracting these types of people that can do your marketing work for you. So this is what I mean by the cult is in CRM, cult relationship management. The second paradigm shift in the travel industry that we're facing is that the traveler life cycle is evolving. And I think this may be able to tie a lot to the meetings, conventions industry, because you obviously still have a business development process. And right now, I can tell you what airlines are really good at. They're really good at booking. So when it comes to taking my money, if I'm ready to go book a flight, I can go to the website, I can go to the online travel agency, or I can go to the travel agent if I prefer it that way. Airlines have that process down to a science. It's really good, really efficient. They're even better at traveling. So when I get to the airport, I know exactly where to go to check in, whether I'm economy or first class. I know exactly where to go to my gate. They know on board I might want a haircut. That's actually me in my less hair days, but anyway, it's supposed to go the other way. Generally speaking, airlines know what kind of food I want on board. If I'm a priority customer, they know that my bag should come out first, and I'm happy on my vacation. So unfortunately, in the travel industry, this is where the engagement tends to end. So they're booking, I pay for my ticket, and I fly my flight, and that's it. I might get an email, 3 months later from the CRM, customer relationship management system, that says, check out our new airfare or something like that. But as far as this particular journey, the engagement's done. The thing is, let me show you an example real quick. Another video, which most of you guys are probably familiar with this one.
Moving to Australia.
Well, Australia's Tourism Bureau looking to fill what it is calling the best job in the world.
澳洲呢份工究竟有幾好咧？
Could this be your new office? Hamilton Island, off the coast of Queensland, needs a caretaker.
Duties include feeding ocean fish, cleaning a pool, and collecting deliveries of mail.
It comes with a rent-free 3-bedroom villa with plunge pool.
All this and a salary of about $8,800 a month. As you might imagine, the regional director says response to the ad has been overwhelming.
Apart from being a very clever way to publicise an extremely beautiful part of Australia, I think what this position reflects is a desire to say to the world, look, this is a wonderful place to come and travel to.
And all you have to do is write a weekly blog.
That can't be right.
There's no catch. This is a real job.
I'll be very good at it.
You'd have to remember to feed the fish. Video applications, including one from the Vatican.
All applicants have to do is submit a 60-second video to this website, islereefjob.com.
Hi, I'm John, and I'm a police officer in England. You can tell by the silly hats.
I come from the ice tundra of the world.
It's really cold here in Connecticut, and I'd love to go to your paradise.
My dad was the great entertainer, Mr. Dean Martin.
Or do you think all we do is eat sausages and sauerkraut? Well, let me prove you wrong, because I'm definitely not one of them.
Here I am.
Here in the north of Sweden, the sea is covered with ice. So if you want to go snorkeling, you need an icebreaker.
So we're going to allow the public to vote for their favourite candidate. We'll pick another 10, we'll fly them across to Hamilton Island for a final interview, and then pick the successful candidate.
It's very tempting.
You sign up for that one,
Yeah, it sounds like tough work there.
Watch the whales.
So if you're not here tomorrow.
They accepted me. I don't think so.
That's right. Oh, man.
So this one obviously is related more to your industry. Did anybody actually apply for this? If your boss is not in the room, you can admit it. Nobody? Well, the reason that I wanted to show that is that 1.4 million people apply for this job, which involves collecting mail, cleaning fish tanks. And do you think that that's 1.4 million people's dream job around the world? Of course not. But what Hamilton Islands did is they instilled a dream in all those people that they wanted to see the Hamilton Islands, we want to visit the Hamilton Islands. And so what I'm arguing for the travel industry is that really your travel experience doesn't start when you go to the website to try to book a flight. It starts when you first get that idea that says, I want to go see the Hamilton Islands, I want to go see Germany, whatever it is. So it's part of the dream, is what I'm saying, is the beginning part of the travel life cycle. So I think that this, again, I think this might have a lot of application to your industry where you have to zoom out from your traditional business development mindset in terms of when it comes to negotiating a contract, and how can you inspire people to want to host a new kind of convention or that sort of thing. In the travel industry, it's about kind of inspiring people to want to travel to begin with. So just recently, my parents actually did a cruise to Alaska, which is supposed to be really beautiful, and I've never been. But we have a Labor Day holiday in the States. So in September, in my parents' neighborhood, they do this kind of cookout, barbecue kind of thing. And my parents had started talking about it, and some of the neighbors heard, and there's a couple next door that's named Bill and Monica. And they first, Bill realized they have a 20th anniversary coming up. And so just by hearing my parents talk about this cruise, they already had this dream instilled in their mind. So of course, that's not just going to lead straight to a booking. Then they're going to start planning and validating this initial dream that they had. So this is where a lot of social media comes in. So in this case, Bill and Monica are going to go to Kayak or TripAdvisor or any one of the hundreds of sites out there that have a lot of customer-generated reviews and content about the Alaskan cruise. And so this is another stage of this travel development life cycle. Of course, after that, we're finally going to book, we're going to travel. But even then, that's not the end of it. I think the biggest thing where social media comes into play today is the sharing. So once I'm done with my trip, or even while I'm still in the middle of my trip, I'm actually tweeting live to the world. I'm putting up on Facebook exactly where I am and what I'm doing. I want to show off to everybody. Nobody's Facebook profile picture is your passport photo, just kind of staring there at the camera. It's, of course, you in front of the Leipzig station or something like this. But wherever you are, a lot of people, they want to kind of show that off. And just for proof of this, I actually caught somebody. If you're in the room, I apologize. This was this morning on one of the ICCA computers, and of course, they're Facebooking. And actually, they're showing photos or sharing photos from this event. So this is exactly what I was happy that I saw that, and I'm happy that my camera's pretty good, so I was able to catch it. So again, I apologize if that's a little stalkerish. But this is what I mean about the travel life cycle evolving. So again, the two paradigm shifts that I'm talking about, the fact that the cult is in, and that's what we want to capture, and the fact that the traveler life cycle is evolving. So, little break, calm down. All right, so how do we drive results from that? This is, hopefully, again, this is my inspiration section. So I'm hoping that you guys can maybe take some of this and apply it to the conventions industry. Well, the first thing that we have to do is we have to help them dream and help them share, which are those two of the three additional parts of this life cycle that I had introduced earlier. So how do we do that? Well, some good examples I have. One is with Jetstar, an airline that's from Asia, Australia. And they actually have a microsite on their website from jetstar.com that's called Jetstar Stories. And what they do is actually give away a free trip every single day to the best submission. And all these submissions from their users of their site are basically stories about any of the destinations that Jetstar flies to. So this is what I mean about kind of inspiring a dream. Now, nobody dreams to go fly on an airline. They dream to go visit you know, Sydney or Melbourne or something like that. So what this is doing is it's using all of their actual customers and making them become advocates and inspire other people that they want to travel to these places that Jetstar flies to. And of course, it's a Jetstar branded site, so how easy it is to just happen to be able to book the flight on Jetstar. Hotel industry, this is IHG, Intercontinental Hotel Group. They have a program called Top Guest, where they actually give points just for, you can actually get your loyalty points, which ultimately can lead to free stays and upgrades and that sort of thing, just based on announcing your location to the world. So any of these social media sites, whether Facebook or Foursquare, Gowalla, in case you're not familiar with Foursquare, Gowalla, these are actually location-based sites where it picks up on my phone exactly where I am, and then I essentially check in virtually. So I announce to my whole social network that right now I'm in the ICCA Leipzig, and if I've actually checked in here more than anyone else, I'm the mayor. So it's kind of this online game thing, but it's huge. And what they're trying to do is reward people and incentivize people for sharing and announcing, hey, I'm in the Intercontinental in Frankfurt or wherever it might be. Anybody in here a member of SAS Zero Bonus? Very proud over there. Very proud. Well, I love this program, and what I love about it, I'm actually not a member because I've only flown on SAS once, so they don't fly so much to the States, but what I love about this program is if you are, as some of you in the room are familiar with, if you log into your page to see what your balance, mileage balance is or points balance, it actually lays out a bunch of destinations that you're already eligible to fly to. So if you see, you know, this is, again, part of this inspiring this dreaming. They're actually grouped into, it's a little blurry, but they're grouped into solo, romance, and family destinations, so depending on what kind of vacation you're looking for. The only problem I have with this one is they put Paris under solo, which is a little strange to me, but there you go, it's just one person. Well, actually, they have a contingency for that, so wait. So anyway, this is the basic page. Now, of course, not everybody travels as much as everyone in this room, so they're not all eligible to fly to all these places. So they actually have an opt-in where you can see destinations that you don't currently have a big enough balance to get to. But what it'll do is it'll tell you exactly how many miles or points you need to collect to get to Tokyo or whatever it is. And again, this is something that it's essentially creating a goal in the traveler's mind. And if my dream is to go to Tokyo, next time I go to book a flight, and maybe Scandinavian is $20, 20 euros more than the other airline, I might book it anyway because they've already got me dreaming about this free flight that I'm going to get to go to Tokyo. Another thing that I love about this program is when you click on any of those destinations that I showed you earlier, they actually source live reviews written by travelers through TripAdvisor. So this is stuff, it's not created by their marketing department. They didn't spend any money or marketing effort to write these destination profiles about Helsinki or wherever. They're getting it all for free, and people tend to trust things that are written by other travelers more than they trust, a marketing brochure. And lastly, it's not only the dreaming, it's the sharing. And they have a way where you can send a virtual postcard to any of your friends where you can say, hey, I have enough points to go to Helsinki, do you want to join me? Now, again, these are not just random people. These are your actual loyalty program members who can really become brand advocates for you. So I really like this program. KLM does a great job with social media as well. Is anybody in here from, there's a few people from the Netherlands. KLM actually has a team of, I think, 22 full-time employees on social media. So that just shows you the level of effort they put into it. But rather than yap about it, I have another really interesting video that I can show you about the KLM efforts.
Welcome to KLM Surprise. Armed with our social media toolkit, our little experiment began. First job, find KLM passengers who had checked into their flight via one of KLM's Foursquare locations or left a message through Twitter. Second job, search their social profiles, get to know them in a discreet manner to think of a personalized gift.
Ja, dat is een goeie.
Nothing stuff. Third job, hunt them down and deliver the gift. Fourth job,
F9, Abu Dhabi.
repeat steps 1 and 2 until either success is achieved, boredom sets in, or blisters need to be treated.
Abu Dhabi is nog niet aan boord. Ik moest dan door de security heen en zo, maar die zit niet op de vloot.
Als zij een sportief iemand is en een weekend Rome gaan doen, kijk, is het misschien leuk als we haar zo'n Nike Plus bandje geven.
Dan heeft u dat niet nodig.
Linda Bommel.
100% zei je dat het er is. Want ze kreeg net een bericht, denk ik. Ik hoorde haar KLM zeggen.
Goedemiddag. En je liet ons weten via Twitter dat je met ons reist vandaag. Dus we hebben een kleinigheidje voor je gekocht. Om je een hele fijn weekend is het geloof ik, hè? Fijn weekend te wensen. En omdat je sportief bent kun je daar de afstand meten en hoe lang je erover doet.
Maar Twitter, ik moet wel even goed.
Oh, leuk, we hebben je gevonden. Hoi.
Hoi.
Nou, Pim, je hebt laten weten dat je met ons vliegt vandaag naar Washington.
Ja, dat klopt.
Dus we willen je verrassen met iets, een kleine aardigheid. Je wordt als van je iPad gestuurd, toch? Dus we hebben een goedbon voor je van €15. Om apps te downloaden.
Dat is leuk, dankjewel.
Tot ziens.
Nou, deze Twitter staat in Mexico huisjes bouwen voor daklozen op initiatief van Hoogland.
Lijsters, middelgam, of weet je, hoe heet dat spul van tegen...
Ja.
E24, vlucht KL0783.
Meneer heet Medeblok, hè?
Ja, zo heet het.
Natuurlijk wel even kijken op mijn iPhone. Ga die meneer even opzoeken. Ik heb zo'n klein fotootje.
Meneer de Bok, zo die je zou hebben gezegd.
Hij gaat huisjes bouwen in Mexico. U reist vandaag met ons naar Mexico?
Ja.
Nu gaat hij iets moois doen.
Ja, dat klopt.
Eerder via Twitter heeft u een bericht gestuurd dat u op Schiphol was en dat hij met ons naar Mexico vloog. Alsjeblieft, voor wat energie en wat verzorging. Een hele fijne reis.
Ja, bedankt.
Een mooie reis. Hallo, u bent meneer Bergman.
Ja.
Dag meneer Luisberg. Dat ben ik. Met u mevrouw Bergen, de Hallo. U gaat vandaag naar het congres op zoek naar nieuwe verbindingen, wat waarschijnlijk ook wel over social media gaat.
Ja.
U heeft vandaag via Twitter laten weten dat u met ons reist naar Cairo. En dat vonden we in dat verband zo leuk dat we u een kleine verrassing willen aanbieden. Dus bij deze hopen dat u een hele fijne reis heeft. Het is een bioscoopbon voor de social network.
Dat wil ik graag zien.
We wensen u een hele fijne reis, een inspirerend congres. We kregen een berichtje van uw buurman en we dachten wat leuk, want hij zei, nou mijn buurvrouw is echt een voorbeeld, want ze is al een beetje op leeftijd en ze reizen nog zoveel. We hebben een klein cadeautje voor u en we hebben ervoor gezorgd dat u een stoel met extra beenruimte, economy comfort heet dat, voor u op de heen en op de terugweg hebben geboekt. Dus dan zit u wat ruimer.
Ik vind het echt super.
Ja? Ja. Goedemiddag, ben jij even? Niet schrikken. Hoi. Ben je klaar voor New York? Ja. Je liet via Twitter weten dat je naar New York ging. We hebben gewoon iets kleins voor je, een kleine ruimte. Niet schrikken hoor.
Dankjewel. Ik zal dankjewel.
After several weeks of handing out little gifts, a few things became apparent. In the age of social media, doing something that creates a real smile on somebody's face is much cooler than attaching a smiley face. But most important, it seemed that indeed an airline could use social media to both surprise and make a small difference to a passenger's day. And we're not just guessing that. We know, because they told us. And their friends. Massively.
So I really love this program in particular. Were any of you familiar with this before? Like KLM did this? It got quite a bit of coverage, obviously, in the Netherlands. And there was actually one of these I really liked in particular that I found out about. There was one guy, I guess Willem, who you saw the last person they gave a New York City guidebook to. Well, in this guy's tweet, when he arrived at Schiphol, he said that he was going to miss the Ajax, the local football team's games. And he would miss kind of what was going on while he was away. So they actually gave him this guidebook and they highlighted every single pub or restaurant that was in here that showed that televised football games in New York. So it's just about kind of going that extra mile to really understand who these people are, which is all available. And I actually did a research project where I contacted each of the people that were in that video through Twitter, and every single person replied and was thrilled about it, except there was the one guy who was going to build houses in Mexico, Ibach, and he didn't reply, and I think the reason is they actually misspelled his name on the video, on the subtitles, so don't forget about the other little basics like spelling things correctly and that sort of thing. But anyway, great program. KLM also has a really cool idea with baggage tags, where through their Facebook page, they give away free customized bag tags to anybody. So anybody in this room could do it. You go to the KLM Facebook page, you upload your own photo, whether it's you, your kids, your dog, an airplane, whatever you want, and they'll actually send you some luggage tags. Not a big expense for KLM, but if you think about it, now everybody who has one of these is advertising KLM walking through the airport. So just a little thing that they can do. Another great example of sharing is actually, and I'm not sure, this probably could apply to somehow to the meetings industry as well. There's something called flip.to, which is essentially a line of code that an airline can put in their booking pack. So if I actually go onto their website and book my ticket, after I've already paid, I get a confirmation that says, here's your flight details, your PNR number, that sort of thing. Well, they actually have inserted, this is LAN Airlines from Chile, they've actually inserted a step in between the payment and confirmation where you can collect points through in your loyalty account just by sharing through your social networks that you just booked this flight from Santiago or whatever. Another airline that does this from Latin America, Pluna, they do the same thing, but then they also actually have this kind of random things that show up on their website that say, you know, Brian Kent is soon to be on our flight. It's all about trying to publicize the individuals and making them feel special. And I think that's where social media can really play into your hands. Anybody seen this before? And if I saw a couple of head nods. If I were to ask any of you where you think this is located, does anybody have any ideas?
Singapore?
I couldn't hear. China, okay. Wow. My first guess when I saw it was probably something like Dubai and in some shopping mall. This is actually in Changi Airport in Singapore. And it's, a lot of people, it was very controversial when they decided to put this into their new terminal. But what it has done is actually generated a huge amount of publicity through a lot of aviation blogs, and also through, it got picked up in an aluminum industry newsletter based on the quality of the construction. But next time I'm flying from, you know, KL to Los Angeles, and I have a choice to fly on Singapore Airlines or Cathay Pacific, say, maybe I'm going to go through Singapore Airlines so I can go see the slide. And this is actually for adults, and if you pay something like $5, you can slide down. Or if you spend $20 at any of the airport retails, they give you a voucher for this. So it's a little, kind of just disruptive, something different to create a memorable experience. What I try to convince airlines to do, and nobody's picked me up on this yet, but I think what an airline should do, maybe Air Asia or something, is maybe give you a little like hat with like a little camera on it that you can put on while you slide down, and then maybe there's a computer at the bottom where you can post your video on Facebook or something like that. Just a thought. So another good example is with Vancouver airports. I know there was a presentation earlier from Vancouver Tourism, so they probably are very familiar with this. But what they did is they had a competition where people could live at the airport for 80 days. And that doesn't mean like sleeping on the baggage belt. They actually have a Fairmont hotel on the airport grounds. But the idea is that you win the contest, so you get to live at the airport for 80 days and essentially be a reporter and report everything behind the scenes of what goes on at the airport. And then this video is posted every single day. So I'll just show you one example from this campaign.
Hello everybody, I'm in the engine of a Boeing 747. Well, maybe not, I'm just in my closet right now, along with 25 Hawaiian t-shirts. So thank you everybody for donating Hawaiian shirts for me. For those of you who don't know, I started wearing Hawaiian shirts to kind of set myself apart, and I also want people to be able to approach me and say, hey Jagger, and that's kind of how it started. Now I got 25 shirts, so thank you very much. This is day 40, so I'm basically halfway through my experience here at YVR. And aside from this totally amazing view here, one of the coolest things about the airport is all the people that work here. I've made some amazing friends. There are a tremendous amount of people that have dedicated their lives to this airport. Like I'm talking like they've worked here for 25 plus years, 20 years. And these people have such interesting jobs. There are people that load cargo onto airplanes. They're pilots. Where did you get those socks from? Did your girlfriend buy you or your wife buy you? There's mechanics. There's people that change light bulb.
So tonight we've got this guy here that's, that living here for 80 days. He's going to hang out with our crew, so take it easy on him. This is the guy here.
There's people that clean up the runway to make sure the runway's safe. There's so many different aspects to this airport. It is truly its own world out here. And it takes all sorts of people to make it run. So one of my favorite experiences has been getting to know the workers as well as the travelers. I finally feel like I have a grasp on things here at YVR. It's my computer right there. It's taken a while, I'm not joking you. It's been a huge learning curve. Like, how do you go to a job and just start reporting on it? Like, you have to kind of know some of the details. So in order to give you guys the proper message, I've had to really kind of get to know the job, get to know the airport, what it's about, how it's run, and who makes it run. So the last few days, you can kind of see my calendar has been pretty booked up, non-stop. It definitely helps to have this nice, cozy bed here. But as you know, guys, I mean, it comes with the territory, right? I'm here on assignment. And to be honest, it's one of these opportunities that, like, you don't want to let go. So, although I'm tired, it's really important, for me to, embrace this moment, to cherish it. Anyways, thanks for joining me tonight. Day 40, halfway through. Thanks for all your support, guys. Bye for now. I'm gonna get back to you.
No doubt, eh? It's like the chin scratch.
So this would be interesting to see how this could apply to the meetings industry, but the idea is that in this case, the guy who won this competition is this guy named Jaeger. You don't have to have a Jaeger, but everybody has a story to tell. And this is about finding the story to tell, and how you can publicize it. So this is my help you dream and share. Those are some of my examples. So the second thing we really want to do is, because the cult is in, so just to rewind, the first thing I'm saying as far as driving engagement is to help with the dreaming and sharing bit. Now, the second thing we need to do is this cult that I'm talking about, we have to go where they hang out. They're not going to come to us. So if we really want to drive results, we have to go where the cult hangs out. And what I mean by this is, generally speaking, people who are really influential on Twitter there's a certain ego that's involved to feel the need to tell everyone where you are at all times and what you're doing at all times. I myself am not a huge tweeter. I think it's more of a personality thing. But if you really want these people on your side, again, they have a certain ego that you have to cater to. So it's about kind of going and meeting them on their comfort zone. Have any of you guys been to Buenos Aires before? Okay, a couple people in the room. I actually haven't been, and most of this room hasn't been. And yet there's this cafe called Urban Station that now, after this presentation, everyone in the room has heard about, which says something about being innovative and getting your name out there. But what this cafe did is they opened up about 3 years ago. And when the owners were thinking about a business model, how are we going to compete with the Starbucks that are surely going to be coming any minute now, they wanted to really understand what their customers would value. And so they realized that for the customers that they wanted to attract, it wasn't all about coffee and having the best coffee or having the best pastries. People actually go there as a social setting. They want to go there to use their wireless internet. They want to do their work. They want to meet their friends. And so what this cafe did is it turned its revenue model on its head from a traditional coffee shop, and that they actually started charging for admission. So you pay $10, 10 euros, or I think it was actually $10, so it was like 40 pesos to actually go in the cafe. So essentially a cover charge. But then it's free flow coffee, free flow snacks, you get your wireless internet connection, you have your power plugs, and this place is now booked up like 3 months ahead of time. So it's companies are going there to have meetings, people are going there to have their regular social engagements. So it's just about kind of rethinking that revenue model and how you are really going to attract these people that you want to attract. Back to my industry, an obvious application for this is Facebook booking, which was actually kind of a controversial thing. Delta Airlines became the first airline about a year ago to launch a booking engine through Facebook. And so all this is their regular booking engine, which is just search for your flights, book your flights, and they just have it located on their Delta Facebook page, which it didn't really add necessarily any value in the sense that people don't go on Facebook to get things marketed to them. They go on Facebook to see what their friends are doing, or find what your old ex-high school girlfriend is up to nowadays. But this is why people use Facebook. And so this is my concern about social media, is a lot of times I think a lot of companies are losing sight of the fact that if you're going to participate in these channels, you have to try to leverage why people are participating in those channels. And so a better example than Delta was with Malaysia Airlines, who took it one step further, and they have a program called MH Buddy, which, don't worry, it's opt-in, so it's not automatic that your data is out there. But if you book a flight through the MH Buddy application on Facebook, it will tell you if any of the people on your friends list are also on the same flight. It'll tell you where they're seated. You can book the seat next to them, or you can book the seat away from them if you want to avoid them. But it's just, this is a great example of how Malaysia Airlines is leveraging participating in Facebook, but really understanding why people are on Facebook for the social interaction bit. Another good example is Alaska Airlines from the States. They have a thing called Flying Social, where it shows a visual depiction of a map with anybody on your friends list and actually where they're located, so Dallas or Los Angeles or wherever it is, and it'll show you the best available fare alongside their picture. So you can picture where your friends are, and then if you want to go visit them, you just click on their little picture and it'll tell you the best fare available. So this is another good example of really leveraging the social aspect of Facebook and offering something commercial through it, but still not losing sight of why people are on Facebook to begin with. One last example I want to give of this one. Virgin America is a semi-low-cost carrier that started in the US about 3 years ago. It's under the Virgin umbrella. Well, they launched flights to Toronto last year from Los Angeles and San Francisco. And usually when airlines launch a new destination, they do invite, of course, a lot of media. You invite some key travel agents in that city. Well, they actually did most of their inviting for their inaugural gala when they launched Toronto through Twitter. And so there's actually a program called Clout, K-L-O-U-T, which measures someone's Twitter influence. I mean, this is very, very arbitrary. It's not like an exact science. But you actually, based on how many followers you have on Twitter or how many times your content gets retweeted, you actually get a score of influence. And when Virgin America sent out this tweet that said, we're doing our Toronto launch event at XYZ Hotel on Wednesday night at 7 p.m., they actually invited anyone with a Clout score above, like, I think it was 35, I forget the actual number, but had a free admission to the thing. So they wanted to get these people on their side. It's kind of an innovative way to really attract the people that they wanted to attract. And keep in mind, this event had Richard Branson there, and these people are the most influential tweeters in Toronto. So of course, when they're there, they're taking photos of Richard Branson, they're taking video clips, and they're tweeting it out, sending it, sharing it. I think the top 10 Twitter influence people that showed up actually got a free flight on the inaugural flight. So it's just a really innovative way of leveraging social media to understand the people that you want to get in endorsing your brand. Let me take a little time out, and I'm curious, I'm assuming, well, it's kind of evolved in the past 6 to 12 months, but is most of your companies or organizations represented on some social media channel, like a Facebook page or a fan page or something like that? Is there anybody whose company is not participating in social media at all? I don't see anyone brave enough to raise their hand. So I'm going to assume that almost every one of your organizations is active on some kind of social media. So when I used to talk to people maybe 6 to 12 months ago, it's about participating. And everybody thinks that we're participating in social media, so that means we're successful. We have social media covered. The thing is, nowadays, everybody's there. And so I know in the US alone that 99% of retailers have a Facebook fan page. I think by the end of this year, they're saying 99% of retailers will have a fan page. So it's no longer just about being there because everyone else is there. You have to really understand what you want to do there and how you're going to differentiate yourself on social media. So a really good example I have of this is hotels.com, and I want you to watch this video real quick.
We're heading to Lake Tahoe. Give me a last minute. We're on the book. That hotel in free fall.
Holmes, please.
Woo! Lately was a bit of a dizzy.
Get that reservation for Mr. Holmes.
No way, we got it! Yeah!
Stop that.
Nailed it.
So what I loved about this example is now, on a down note, there's nowhere where it really says hotels.com, so you could easily watch that and have no idea who it's promoting. But hotels.com, their big marketing pitch is that they're the fastest booking engine of all the hotel web booking sites. And so if you think about it, their goal is to promote speed. They want to say, we're the fastest, hotels.com fastest. They had a guy jump out of a plane and book a hotel while he was jumping out of the plane. So this is what I mean about with social media. The important thing is no longer just being there, it's understanding what business goal or communication message you want to get out, and then choosing the best medium to communicate that point. Emirates did a really good program with this as well. This, again, kind of related to the meetings, conventions thing. Dubai has a really big art scene now. It's growing. There's a lot of money being invested into some of the art galleries in the Middle East. So Emirates wanted to attract that community. And so when they redesigned their Skywards loyalty program card, so this is actually the card that you get when you're a member of their loyalty program, they enlisted a lot of the local artists, and they had a competition where you could submit your suggestion, your artistic design to be on this card, and the winner would actually have his design on the card. And the runners-up would actually have, there was a little gallery at Dubai Airport and also in the Emirates headquarters where these people's artwork got displayed. So this is a good example of really understanding that we want to attract this particular community, so we're going to organize some kind of contest that really draws these people into us. Another good example is with Groupon, and I think this actually really intrigues me as it relates to convention industry as well. Are you all familiar with Groupon by any chance? Mostly, I see quite a few head nods. In case you're not, essentially it's like group buying. So you might offer something at half price with the idea that twice as many people are going to buy it. So, you know, it's a good thing to spike some sales. You have sales cycles that are a little slow or something like that. Delta Airlines did a really good job of this, where they wanted to get more people into their Sky Club lounge, and they offered it at $22, even though it's usually a $50 value, which is kind of an arbitrary value because it's not something that's generally for sale. But they actually sold 863 of these things in one day. And so talk about getting people into your lounge. What's the incremental cost to them as far as admitting somebody into their lounge? Most of the people in there are not going to eat or drink $50 worth of food. So it's something that they did to really spike, get people talking, get people sharing about, hey, the Delta Sky Club Lounge is really, really nice. Points.com is another good example of this. And it's essentially, most people, and I'm sure most of you in the room that travel a lot, you're not a member of one loyalty program. I think I'm a member of like 15 or something, but the average person actually has 6 different loyalty programs that you're a member of. So you might be a member of Lufthansa, United, and Sheraton, and Starwood, or something like this. Well, Points.com allows you to log in, and it basically consolidates all of your loyalty program memberships and tells you exactly what the balances you have in each in one central place. Well, US Airways started, this is where their people were hanging out, where their top dividend miles customers were hanging out online. So they started promoting a lot of their messages, their marketing communications through the Points.com message boards. So again, this is just one more example of kind of really going where the cult hangs out and engaging them on their turf. So lastly, the third point that I wanted to make is that I mentioned earlier about there's a certain ego involved with this cult that we want to attract. The other thing with them is that they're not going to stay in one place for too long. These are people who are first movers, first adopters, as far as whatever new technology is out there. So we really want to make sure we're not kind of stuck with the head in the sand looking like this guy. I think we really want to make sure that we're changing along with the cult and understand where they're going and how they like to be engaged and what's changing and making sure that we're up to speed with that. So a good example I have, I know that there's at least somebody, one person from South Korea in the room. We have these, you've all seen these kind of zebra sidewalks, of course. Every city on earth has them. But how many of you, when you're actually crossing the street, are going to walk, you're heading that way, are going to actually walk here and then take a 90-degree right-hand turn, and then 90-degree right-hand turn? Of course not. If you actually watch people's behavior, they're kind of just doing a little angle like this, save a few steps. So look at the sidewalks in some parts of South Korea. It's a very simple concept, but just understanding, again, changing with people the way that they like to be engaged with. I'm pretty sure we have a lot of countries here in the room, and I'm pretty sure that everywhere kids hate eating carrots. Is that true? I don't know if you have kids. I don't have any kids yet, but I know that I used to hate anything that resembled a vegetable. There's a company in the US that started packaging these baby carrots like chips. So now all of a sudden it looks like Cheetos or something like this. And they had a spike in sales, just basically on the packaging. Understanding that, kids don't think in terms of, a vegetable, they think in terms of some crazy cartoon on a colorful bag. So now back to airlines. As far as it relates to the airline industry, and this is where I'm not quite as comfortable with the tie between airlines and conventions on this particular example, but at least it kind of completes the educational bit about social media in terms of the dangers of it. With airlines, one big application that they can use social media for is crisis management. And it's every airline's #1 biggest fear is an accident, a crash, something like that. But this is where social media can have a huge, huge impact. And so last year there was a flight, American Airlines Flight 24, which was actually just going from San Francisco to New York, routine flight. They have about 10 a day. But there was a bomb threat on this flight. And so somebody had phoned in a bomb threat, and then, of course, it becomes a huge deal, and everyone's panicking. Well, what happened is they had to conduct an investigation. They took a bunch of bomb squad there, they started searching the plane, they had an FBI investigation. American Airlines, their PR department is kind of, imagine if you have a PR department, what they do in this situation. You can't really say anything definitively because there's an investigation going on. So you really don't know what's happening. However, people have these things, smartphones, and they're not all turned off when they're in the aircraft. And so while this was going on, these two people, one named Hamble McKellar and one named Jay Sears, were actually tweeting every 2 or 3 minutes about what's going on, essentially reporting live from this actual aircraft while there's investigators coming on. If you read some of them, it says, "Captain just asked for our patience." Captain says 6 law enforcement officials will board the plane and take us off 2 by 2. Locking restrooms, back left door open. These people were reporting live. Now, the other little caveat of this is, do you think that all the news organizations, your BBCs, your CNNs, they make their money by being first to report things? They're not going to sit there and wait for American Airlines to have the conclusion of an investigation, a PR statement that's released. They're actually picking up these things live. So while this whole event was going on over the course of 1 or 2 hours, these two people became pretty much famous through CNN because they're actually being quoted as legitimate, credible sources of information. And so what American Airlines did, they were actually pretty aware. And so as soon as they caught wind that these people were starting to get some attention, they started engaging them. So they would actually send a tweet directly related to, or directly to them, hang in there, authorities are taking care of things. Thank you for sharing this information. Correct, this is never a hostage situation. Point being, American was actually aware of what was going on, and they made sure that they acknowledged these people to get them on their side. It's much better than being completely oblivious, in which case you have no control over the situation. And as a result, they had actually quite a bit of circulation about some positive messages that were circulated that were saying, passengers will be rescreened. There was a lot of people that started taking the information that those two people on board and American were saying and then sharing it out with their social networks that basically took a panic situation and made everyone realize, look, it's very much under control. It was a false bomb threat, not a big deal. Everyone's going to be rebooked. So that was a really good example of American being aware of social media and understanding how they had to handle what could have been a pretty disastrous situation. This one was actually not so good. I won't show you the whole video, but has anybody heard of this Delta thing with the troops that came home from Afghanistan? I'm not sure about this part of the world, but check this out just for a few minutes.
All right, one more time. Navy Staff Sergeant Frederick Gilder, United States Army. It's June 7th, Tuesday, approximately 7:15 a.m. Flying from Baltimore, Maryland on Delta Airlines flight 1625. Yeah, 1625 from Baltimore to Atlanta, Georgia, on our way back to Fort Polk, Louisiana. just returned from Afghanistan yesterday. We're on our way to Atlanta after an 18-hour layover. We had a little issue with the bags this morning, and I thought that I would let another soldier explain a little bit of what happened this morning. So, if you don't mind, here you go. All right, Sergeant, go ahead and explain what happened.
My name is Staff Sergeant Robert O'Hare, and United States Army. We got to the airport this morning to start reporting the plane, get everything going. And we showed up and found out that we had too many bags.
What do you mean? What do you mean too many bags?
Well, we had 4 bags. The Delta airline only allows 3 bags. Anything over 3 bags you have to pay for. You know there's a contract between the United States government and Delta Airlines when returning from Afghanistan or on military orders. They're authorized up to 4 bags.
So you're saying that our military travel orders authorized us to carry 4 bags, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
All right, so what happened to the soldiers that actually had 4 bags?
We had actually ended up paying out of pocket, our own money, to allow that 4th bag to be taken.
How much you paid?
$200.
All right, so how much did our unit end up paying out of pocket?
Over $2,800, and there's only 34 of us soldiers.
So our unit paid over $2,800 for a 4th bag that our travel orders actually authorized.
That's correct.
All right, what was that 4th bag for you?
For me, it was a weapons case holding my M4, 203 grenade launcher, and 9mm. The tools that I used to protect myself and Afghans while I was deployed in the country.
So you're telling me that you paid over $200 for your 4th bag that was actually your weapons?
That is correct.
All right, appreciate it. Thank you.
No worries.
Good business model, Delta. Thank you. We're actually happy to be back to America. God bless America. Not happy. Not happy at all. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Now, I like this example because it's so raw. It's, you know, the Air New Zealand one I showed you is obviously done professionally. This is just these guys that were frustrated that they had to pay something like $2,800 for an extra bag that they shouldn't have had to pay. That thing got circulated. It was like something like 1.5 million views on YouTube. It was actually a really big problem for Delta. However, the reason I like to show that example is, at least in the airline industry, there's so many contingencies that airlines can't control. So there's weather delays, there's all sorts of things. Safety is most important. If there's a problem with an aircraft, you're not going to send it up in the air. The problem is that whether it's a weather problem or a maintenance problem or something, the customer doesn't care. All they know is that he or she is not getting where I was supposed to be going in the time that you said you'd get me there. And so it's impossible to prevent bad things from happening, but just by being aware of what's going on and who your social influencers are, you can really you can basically take a negative situation and turn it into a positive. And in this case, Delta, after this happened, within 24 hours, they put up a very public response through their blog, which they also distributed through Twitter, through Facebook, through all of their online social presences. And they actually made very clear, we changed the policy, we refunded the money, we support our military, all this. And it actually turned into somewhat of a positive for Delta, just based on the fact that they really listened to these people and they made a very public response of it. An example that didn't go so well was with United, another US carrier, and watch this video to which they had no response to.
From the seat behind me, my God, they're throwing guitars out there. The band and I exchanged a look, best described as terror, at the action on the tarmac, and knowing whose projectiles these would be. So before I left Chicago, I alerted 3 employees who showed complete indifference towards me. United, you saying of pass the buck, don't ask me, and I'm sorry, sir, your plane can go nowhere. So do all the airlines people from New York to New Delhi, including kind of a Earlway, who says the final word from them is no. I've heard all your excuses, and I've chased your wild gooses, and this attitude of yours, I say, must go.
I'll stop it there because that song is like 5.5 minutes or something. But if you actually Google, any one of you that's online can do this. If you Google United Bricks guitars, you'll see this video on YouTube. 11 million views. 11 million. And so if you don't think that that had a huge brand impact on United, that 11 million people now have this catchy song, and it will stay in your head. I guarantee there's going to be somebody in here at dinner that starts humming this song because it's kind of driving me crazy. But 11 million people that are now thinking, I probably don't want to check a bag with United because it's not going to be in one piece when I get it. United had no response. They weren't aware of it. They didn't make any sort of public response, and there was a study, again, these studies, the jury's kind of out on them. I'm a little skeptical of how you actually measure this down to an exact figure. But there was a study that I read that said that there was something like $180 million worth of brand damage to United Airlines. So again, this is just, my point being that you can't prevent a bag from being mishandled, but you can be aware of what people are saying about your brand and make sure that you can reach out to those people to mitigate the problem. This is one where I need a little volume. One more video that's actually pretty funny that I want to show you. I'm almost done with the videos.
Enjoy your flight. Hello. Oh, I'm sorry. We're only boarding rows 9 and above right now. You'll have to wait.
I'm in row 8.
Please step aside, sir.
It's just one row. Don't you think it's okay?
We'll call your room momentarily. Step aside, sir. Thank you for waiting. We'd like to continue boarding the aircraft now. We're now boarding all rows, please. All remaining rows. Hello. Enjoy your flight.
So I love this example to kind of sum up, because again, it's really about common sense. And 5 years ago, if we go back 5 years, my background is with airlines. So I've worked for a few carriers before. If I was her manager and it's time for review, you know, I'm going through the checklist of what she was supposed to do. And was she courteous with the passenger? Absolutely. She was smiling. Was she enforcing the rules and not letting people get around the rules that the airlines implemented? Absolutely. Did she ever lose her composure? Of course not. So point being, she had a perfect score. She's check, check, check. Maybe she's promoted. But in 2011 now, if I treat the customer that way and don't use simple common sense, that's being publicized to the world. As soon as I get on board, it's going out via Twitter, it's going out via Facebook, LinkedIn, whatever. And a good graphic that I like to share with airline people is that we did some research that we concluded that out of any Airbus or airplane filled with 150 seats, there's at least 5 people that are tweeting live, as understanding what the common sense is, that essentially allowing your people to think for themselves. So this is what I mean by changing with the cult. So we're getting close to the end. I know it's been a lot of talking. Back to our guy, Christoph. Somebody said they knew him. Did you really know him? Can you say who he is?
He runs a Polish regiment. He did the presentation on the marketing award.
Well, I had no idea about that. But I went on Foursquare and I looked through is he here? Oh, he works for, I guess, Poland Convention?
He works in Poland and he did a presentation for the Polish Convention Bureau Marketing Awards this morning.
So he's here. Uh-oh, gosh, he's probably going to come after me. But the reason that I just showed this is that I just went on Foursquare and I looked at who's the mayor of the ICCA Convention Center. And it's Christoph. So I guess he has actually been up to speed on Foursquare and checked in when he's gone here. And the interesting thing about it is if you have any customers that you really want to attract or key people that, again, this cult that I'm talking about, I've never met this guy. Apparently he's here. Hopefully I'll meet him. But I can tell you, I can look at his badges that he's earned, which are just basically virtual things based on, you know, flying this many flights or checking in at this many restaurants or bars. I can really get a feel for what he does socially. I can get to know this guy in a very personal level. If I looked at the notes he's left, I can see he sent a message about margaritas in Cancun, and I guess something in Phuket, so obviously he likes tropical resorts. But this just kind of shows you the power of the social media profiles. I mean, essentially you can stalk people through it. You can really understand how to engage these people personally. The other two people that I showed, I won't go into their profiles, but one of them was the mayor of the main Leipzig station, and one of them was I can't remember. One of them was the mayor of the Westin Leipzig, so I figured maybe you might have seen those guys around. But if I'm the sales manager at the Westin Leipzig, maybe I want to know who that guy is. So kind of my conclusion is really, again, this is mostly geared with airlines, but airlines are really good with that traditional CRM, customer relationship management. So if I talk to any of the colleagues that I have that work in loyalty or manage the frequent flyer programs, if I ask them who are your top 50 mileage accruers in the past month, or who are your top 10 flyers of Frankfurt-Munich route, they can tell me that in seconds, immediately. They really understand that. But if I ask them of their Facebook fan page, of the number of fans they have on Facebook, for example, how many of those people have actually flown on the airline in the past 6 months, I get a lot of blank stares. And so I'm trying to get the message across that we really might already understand this customer, and especially our loyal customer. We really know them well, but we don't understand this cult as much. And so the idea is that we want to really start to overlap the two, and we want to make sure that our awareness of our customer is overlapping with the awareness of who the key influencers are, and which of our customers are also social influencers that we can really turn into brand advocates. One kind of last video I like to show, which is just kind of a good comprehensive example of an airline that's really doing a nice job with social media, and it's actually quite a fun video as well. This is with Air New Zealand. It just gives you an idea of the things that they've done in addition to the Rico character that I showed you earlier.
When you're a little airline from the bottom of the world, you have to throw out the marketing rulebook if you want to get noticed on the international stage. But when your new aircraft are turning heads around the world, and your customer service sets the standard for the industry, you can be sure people in New Zealand hear about their national airline through PR and local media. So how do we export the Air New Zealand brand overseas? In true Kiwi style, we think differently. Instead of relying on traditional media, like much of our industry, Air New Zealand has embraced the global reach of social media and delivered a series of king hits. Our online videos have racked up millions of views and got the world's media, aviation, and marketing industries talking. They grab attention, give people a laugh, and play a huge role in supporting our primary brand messaging. Fit to Fly, an airline safety video starring workout legend Richard Simmons, has become a YouTube sensation, and with a smart seating strategy, this high-energy extravaganza has made its way into the mainstream media worldwide. Conceived, created, and launched in just 4 weeks, Fit to Fly's numbers keep climbing. Over 2 million views on YouTube, and a string of YouTube honors. 1 million views on the Chinese equivalent, Youku. Appearances on major mainstream websites. Nearly 125 million media impressions in the UK alone. More than 340 million in the US, including coverage on the 4 main TV networks. For a small airline in a country of just 4.5 million people, it represents a seemingly unbelievable degree of international reach. Like Richard, you could call our next brand ambassador a little unconventional. We teamed international rap superstar Snoop Dogg with our free-spirited puppet Rico to record the track Hello Sunshine. This online video may not push product, or service, or ticket prices, but it does sell the Air New Zealand brand personality to the world. It's big on YouTube with over 500,000 views and a massive level of engagement. It's earned 55 international YouTube honours, including being the #1 top-ranked video in New Zealand the day after launch. It's featured on Snoop Dogg's own Facebook page, which has over 11 million fans. It's been tweeted by major TV stars like Kim Kardashian. It's been featured on TV news, hip-hop, entertainment and advertising blogs, and US magazines, and has got people talking from Heathrow to the Hollywood Hills. Talking is what Rico loves to do most. So for his latest series of online videos, On the Sky Couch with Rico, we introduce our furry friend to international celebrities, David Hasselhoff and Lindsay Lohan. Part chat show, part therapy session, these videos, and the stars for that matter, never take themselves too seriously. So far, our Rico videos have been viewed almost 4 million times on YouTube and on Youku in China, with incredible engagement. They've earned 78 international YouTube honours, with the Lindsay Lohan video ranking the most popular in the comedy category, and have been covered on the world's most influential entertainment, advertising and marketing websites. It seems Rico's popularity is well and truly on the up. Just take a look at what we've achieved on Facebook. In less than a month, the Winner Rico soft toy promotion saw likes on the page double to 44,000, placing Rico ahead of many other popular brands. Our bold experiment with social media and online video has proved that in the modern marketing world, the old rules are breaking down. Impact and reach are no longer based on how big your budget is. They're driven by personality, energy, and a commitment to doing things in a fresh and fun way. Air New Zealand's online marketing strategy is making waves around the world and has even been rewarded at the Airline Strategy Awards in London. Proof that even for a small airline from the bottom of the world, in the digital media age, the sky really is the limit.
So the key word I like from that video is when they mention the word experiment. And I think that's where social media is really valuable. I really am not one to say that social media is all things to all people. I think, especially with the airline industry, I try to tell people it's okay not to be on social media. You don't have to be in every channel. But if you're going to participate in a channel, you really have to have the resources and attention to it. So for example, there are some airlines that just do not engage customers on a customer service level through social media, so they just won't do it. And that's okay. Whatever they did before must work for them. However, there are some airlines that are asking or essentially encouraging people to send a tweet if you're stuck at the airport with a misconnection flight or something like that. And the problem is that as of right now, I think the statistic is about 22% of tweets are actually responded to, of tweets directed to an airline. And if you think about that, can you imagine a call center where 22% of the phone calls are answered? It's the same idea. And so I think the idea is if you're going to participate in any of these channels, you really have to give adequate human resources to it so that it's not completely free. There's no free lunch. But the idea is with the experimentation, these Rico videos, for example, you're not paying the fee to be on CNN or on BBC. So that's where you're saving the money. You still have to produce the video. But the idea is you can experiment a lot more because if something doesn't get spread virally, it's not really a huge cost to you. So again, it's just really understanding what you want to use social media for and then making sure you're paying adequate attention to it. That's all I have for today. Again, I wish I knew more about the meetings industry, which I just don't know so much about it. I'm new to it. But hopefully, I'd love to answer any questions, or if you go to our blog, you can see some interesting stuff and statistics. And I'd like to open the floor to questions. And I'll be here all day also today and tomorrow, so you can grab me and anything like that.
Really no questions? Are you sure?
That's good. Because the question I always get is how do you actually measure it? And so I'll ask my own question. And I really don't have a great answer. It's very arbitrary. And you think about it, traditional advertising medium through, if you run an ad campaign through a TV network, how do you really measure the return on that as well? It's very difficult to put a number on brand marketing, but there are going to be more and more tools available to try to quantify that, but it's still a little gray area right now. I finally see a question.
Steve, that was a really great presentation.
Oh, thank you.
That's really good. We use Twitter for our C2C communications, which are primarily to people who are thinking about Glasgow for short breaks or visiting or experience, and our positioning on that, our proposition is first to know. So effectively, we constantly are looking for information, and then these breaking news. So we're followed by media, etc., as a first to know source. And we've got quite a good clout rating. The challenge for us is the B2B or the B2C or relationship that we have with our customers. We just don't tweet to potential conference delegates. All we're doing at this point is providing tweet content that delegate conference organisers can use about the destination. But we haven't actually cracked the point where we're in a position where we would use our ICCA Glasgow to tweet to conference delegates, because it's a very different audience for us. What would be your kind of recommendation to us?
Well, I think again, I'm not 100% familiar with how you engage your end users now, the actual delegates. But I would just say if there are any that are really key for you, that have more influence than others, so whether it's people that are making decisions about sending a big contingent to the conference or things like that. I mean, realistically, we can't all sit here 24 hours a day monitoring our Twitter feed. Nobody wants to do that. I certainly wouldn't want to do that. You have to have your weekend, you have to have your evenings. But I think that, you know, maybe a starting point would just be trying to identify some key people that maybe have drawn a lot of people to your conferences before, and starting to engage those people on a more individual level, just to get a better understanding for them personally. I think I'm actually glad you mentioned the B2B thing that you mentioned, because I think for me, I'm more focused, a lot of these examples are more B2C, and I think that intuitively that makes more sense as far as, you know, an airline, for example. We actually do some work with Airbus, and at first I was thinking this is very strange that Airbus wants to become involved with social media, because nobody's going to make a $50 million purchase decision about buying 10 5 380s or something because of some tweets that were sent out. But I might actually book a €150 plane ticket because of some tweets that were sent out. But I think it's just important to remember that even behind those companies, they're all individuals. I mean, it's just all about building those personal relationships. So I would just say try to identify a few that might be key influencers and target them.
Hi, I'm Sus from SAS. I think all the airlines that are actually with ICCA are here today because this is the only session that actually has something to do with our sector. But I think we all have individually good social media strategies within our airlines, but we all have the same challenge on being the convention, the meeting market specialist, that the B2B part is very hard to get on. And would you recommend that to be a part of our general social media strategy within the company, or should we build up something separately? I really think it's difficult to get a grab on that.
You're talking about the conventions business?
Yes, as us as airlines actually going out to, well, you can actually say we have two target groups. We have the B2B, which is to the conference organizer that would like to sign up with us, and of course we also have to the delegates that are actually going to hopefully travel on us when they go to the conventions.
Well, I think as far as reaching out to delegates, I mean, again, there are cases where you can generate demand from the bottom, where they can actually influence the people making the decisions, but I definitely think that it should be part of your strategy if you are involved with social media, but I'm a little leery about having too many different approaches to how you do it. I think it's important to have really one identity through social media, and so I think that the most successful examples I've seen, they have some consistency. So whether I use social media to handle customer service issues or whether I just want to promote a fair sale, there are some consistencies with how I'm approaching the market. I think one good example that I have is that some companies have, I guess someone like me, for example, I work independently for now, and I have a Twitter handle that's called Airticulate, which is a blog that I had started a few years ago. And I also actually, when I first signed up for Twitter, my Twitter name was just my name, @Stephen Clement. And so a lot of people have advised me that know more about this field than I do, that have said it's really important that you don't have 2 Twitter handles, actually. You know, at first I was thinking, okay, I'll use Airticulate to do stuff about the airline industry, and I'll do Stephen Clement to say, oh, well, I'm really upset with this hamburger that I ate, or something like that. But a lot of people that worked in this field professionally before I did were really adamant that you should only have one identity, because you're only one person. And so I think that it's just, whatever you do, it's important just to be consistent with it.
Yeah, going back to what you just said about the Airbus using social media and how you found it a bit, not weird, I can't remember the word you said, but in a way that's my doubt, you know, who's going to make a business decision worth lots of money based on Twitch and Facebook. So yeah, I was wondering, do you have more information on that particular example, or why do they do it? Did they get anything out of it?
Well, with Airbus, we're actually just starting to work with them, and they are going forward with a strategy. And I think it's more, they're using it more as a relationship tool. So really just understanding that, again, even these decision makers, that they are people. They're not just some faceless company. And so I think that it's really just more about, for them, it's really more about just building those personal relationships and really understanding your customer better. And anybody in sales, as you know, it's all about listening and understanding who you're selling to, which makes it a lot more effective how you're going to tailor your sales pitch. So I think for now, I can keep in touch with you and tell you more as this unfolds. But for now, I think that's kind of the angle we're really pushing at.
So it's like an extra thing they do just to...
Yeah, more or less. I mean, because again, it's not, people aren't going to make an impulse purchase of an
They're not hoping to make a profit or
anything. Right. Not at the moment, but that's kind of, we're just starting to work with them. So actually, I can keep you posted with how that unfolds. Any more? Everyone wants to go get their costume for later? I guess that's all. So, thank you very much for your attention. I hope it was